I'm very proud of myself that I was able to almost weekly upload one video on YouTube while being a full-time student. And with this kind of consistency, it's very easy to burn out when everything starts to feel like the same. One of the ways I keep creating fun and avoid burnout is by using tools that make my everyday student life look more cinematic. So today I want to share 3 tools that I use to film and tell my story as a student creator. Let's get into it. The weekly vlogs that I create revolve around my day-to-day life. I'm not always going on crazy road trips, going overseas or traveling. That's why I'm capturing mundane day-to-day things, whether that's just me editing, cleaning, talking about the gear stuff. And because of that, I try to capture it as beautiful and cinematic as possible because that's just the way I want to tell my story. One of the tools that I came across while filming is this. This piece of gear right here is super affordable and it allows me to get very unique shots. Whether it's a POV shot of me drinking from a cup or a top-down shot for I think 20 euros or 25 euros, this is a steal. You got one end here where you can screw your phone mount so it's compatible with your phone as well or your camera. And on the other side you have this clamp where you can just screw it onto the object, whether it's, for example, here my glass, my water bottle, then you can just screw it here. I'm struggling for some reason. There we go. Now you have this and you attach your camera or your phone, like I said, here, and then you can just, you get the idea. Honestly, without this, I'm not going anywhere. This allows me so much more than just setting up a tripod, because let's be honest, as a solo creator, most of the time we're just fully reliant on our tripods. This one is just such a game changer due to the fact of the versatility that it gives, and you don't have to rely on anybody else setting it up for you. However, there is a downside with this setup that I have, this Tamron 17-70, which is a quite bulky lens. It's kind of difficult because it has a weight limit. These are like smaller arms. When you attach it, it will like drop down a bit, even though it's screwed fully. You see now it's like fixed, but if I add a little bit of pressure, like the head is moving. So you have to be careful there. But if you put it in the right angle, then you should be fine. Like, this is definitely something that you should get if you want to have some unique shots. So recently there's more a trend going towards the old style camera, the vintage look. And this is something which I also like to incorporate more and more, because I also really do like this nostalgic feeling, and it's sometimes just nice to not be having to carry a big camera with you. This is why my little Piani Mark II. I mean, this is a toy camera, but it does the job like a retro vintage camera. It captures sound, it takes pictures and videos, and it has a small micro SD card slot where it allows me to just, put it in my pocket or just hang it around. It even has like a magnetic, here basically I can just attach it with myself. And I realized something, most of the time it's really hard for me to film in public, and I don't want to bring out this big camera all the time and carry 24/7, especially because I'm going to Japan soon again, and there are some situations where I just want to have not that much weight on myself. This is where you can just, simply capture the vibe and the moment as it is. And I think there are some pretty good used options of, retro vintage cameras, but also just this one, Piani Mark II. I got it for 30 euros, and honestly, I just have it with myself all the time, and it's such a cool gadget to have and get some, unique shots and tell your story in that way too. So when I film content, I film in 24 frames per second and at a shutter speed of 1/50th. And I try to keep my camera at my base ISO, which will differ from camera to camera, but for this one it's 800 and 3200. Otherwise, you will get this grain in your footage which you don't necessarily want. That's why we got this. Currently have it on my camera. I'm gonna show you, demonstrate it. This is a ND filter, and now it's gonna get dark, pretty dark. And now putting it back. So what this filter basically allows you to do is keeping your setting and f-stop of your lens, because I have a f.28 2.8 lens, which is a pretty good low aperture. However, if the circumstances don't allow to use this aperture, then the image quality won't give me the wanted look. So this way I can separate myself from the background a bit because I have a low aperture. However, if the lighting conditions would be bad right now, I wouldn't be able to do so. That's why I always try to have my ND filter with myself. Otherwise, you know, you're trying to get this shot and it's overexposed, then the shot is over. Like, you most likely not are able to recreate this shot all the time. So that's why I really just have it on my lens all the time. It allows me to get the best footage possible. However, I have to admit, these are a little bit more pricey, and the way I see it is, you have a good lens, then you should invest in a better quality ND filter as well. Because when you put a good lens and a cheap filter in front, then you're gonna reduce the image quality of that too. And you don't want to do that because you already invested in a good lens, right? So that's why I got this kind of concept one. It has different stops, end stops, I think from 1 to 9, which have different density of darkness. It's pretty simple. You can just screw it on your lens, which is very versatile. I can just go out and shoot and then just demount it. However, when you buy an ND filter, you have to buy it for the lens and the size of the lens. I think mine is a 67mm wide lens, and with that means that you also have to, if you have a different lens, have a different ND filter if the size is different. That's why I would always recommend to buy a ND filter for the biggest size lens that you have, because you can always buy a adjustable filter to put it onto your smaller lenses. However, you can't go the other way around, which is gonna be very sad because you already made the purchase. I'm gonna link all the products and items that I use down below, so feel free to check them out. Consider subscribing as well, because I'm creating weekly videos. I'm also gonna link 2 of my other videos, my latest videos, if you haven't watched them. And I'm pretty excited to see you in the next one. Peace.